Good evening, Jeopardy fans, and welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. This is the round table, the live round table. Once again, I am Andy Saunders, and I will be moderating tonight's discussion. We have a small but mighty panel this evening to discuss the last little bit of the last few Jeopardy episodes. I'm going to introduce the panel tonight in order of I guess usually by when they first aired. So returning to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, Chua, thanks for joining us again, Kea. It's been a while.
Hi. Yeah, it has been a while.
I'm glad we could get the schedules together so that you could come back to Live Panel and join us again.
Yeah.
And also our second panelist this evening, she won 3 games recently. Welcome to Susan Cole.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Thanks for joining us, both of you. If you happen to have any questions, as always, you can tweet in or using hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel on Twitter. Also, on YouTube, there is a chat function. If you have a question or a comment, you can leave it there. As always, I do kind of semi-moderate things, so generally I have to like it from where or your, I guess, yes, for me to put it through. Actually, you know what? We have one already from Ken Hirsch. He's coming on. He's a law librarian as well. He's going to be on the show in the next week, if I'm not mistaken. So best of retroactive luck to you. And his question is for you, Susan. Where did you get your MLS?
I went to Simmons College in Boston. Where did he go?
So, Ken, if you want to type in where he got his MLS, I will relay it for the podcast.
This is so interactive.
I know. That being said, my first question while I wait for Ken to do that is it's one I usually save for later in the panel, but okay, he went to Florida State for his.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay. So it's one I usually say for a little bit later in the panel, but I'd like to open it this evening. Everyone kind of has their how did they fall in love with Jeopardy story. So kind of like, how did you originally become a Jeopardy fan? So my question for both of you, because I don't think either of you have answered this on panel yet. So both Kea and Susan, how did you fall in love with Jeopardy and how did you become a Jeopardy fan?
It's funny. I can't remember a specific time that I fell in love with it. I think it's just always been there, kind of feeling for me. I was always a Jeopardy person over Wheel of Fortune. So I was, after dinner, I'd sit down and watch Jeopardy as a kid. And then actually, it was just sort of in the last, I think, 12 months or so that I got back into watching it really regularly. I started watching it every night. And then a friend of mine, Amelia Hirschberger, was on Jeopardy. And I was like, oh, I got to watch her. So then I really got into rewatching it again, excitedly. Yeah. And then the test came up soon after that. So, and now I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Where did you end up trying out? Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so that would have been April, around the time where they taped the Power Players, Teachers, Teens, yada yada yada. And
yeah. It was at the Capitol Hilton, and I didn't realize till I got there that it was just down the street from the White House. So I was
wow.
Whoa, very historic, meaningful neighborhood. So that was fun.
And then obviously you got the call and taped and won 3 times and.
Yeah.
So my next question, actually, sorry, before I move on, Kea, you haven't had a chance to answer this one yet on panel. So how did you fall in love with Jeopardy?
So I've been watching Jeopardy pretty much my entire life. So I was a big game show nut from the time I was 2 or 3 years old. So I remember it was when I was 5, I think it was 1990. And there was an ABC primetime special, Super Jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
So primarily I was interested in the thing that it was paired with, like the Monopoly show, because I was like, ooh, Monopoly. And so I would also watch Super Jeopardy, and then so from then on I would just watch Jeopardy with my family, not knowing pretty much any of the answers, but yeah, I pretty much just watched it on and on as a family thing. I ended up getting all of the Jeopardy video games, like the Sega Game Tech versions, yeah. And so, yeah, just started acquiring knowledge by playing those. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. That's. I mean, I didn't have all of the Jeopardy video games. I'm pretty sure you probably would have had more than I did, but I had
just the PC, yeah, the PC version and the Genesis.
I know I had these. They came out with a Sports Jeopardy PC game in the early '90s, which I had.
I have that too. I still have it somewhere.
So moving on, you mentioned being friends with, or friend of a friend with Amelia. Now, in one of her games, she was in a bit of a bet to tie situation, and she elected to bet for the tie. Now, seeing her on and seeing her making the choice to bet to tie, did that affect your strategy at all in your Final Jeopardy wagering? Because I know in a couple of your games you bet to tie.
Actually, no. It's kind of. I saw your tweet about it during my games, the airing of my games, and actually, I'm just not great at math on the fly. So I don't remember exactly what I was aiming for, but I was definitely not aiming to tie. So it was just a really weird coincidence. So yeah, I'm sorry. I wish there was a more exciting answer to that, except that I'm bad at math.
Well, do you, Keo, obviously, now that there's no ties, would you consider betting to tie at any point?
Generally I wouldn't. I think that if it were generally, like, in most situations, there's no reason to. If there were a reason to, if there were a special case, I think I would favor just betting to win, unless it were, yeah.
So, obviously, as interestingly enough, the story behind there no longer being ties, and with the tie being broken by a tiebreaker clue, was broken on #Jeopardy Live panel almost 2 years ago now. Funny how that happened. We had Ryan Alley and Allison Solomon, who actually were the final tie game before the rule changed, and Ryan broke the story here on panel, and that was a bit of a surprise. But since then, we haven't had a tie game, and so anyone listening in, you guys, do you think we'll see a tiebreaker clue in the near future at some point, or will it just be one of those things where we'll just see a whole bunch of near misses?
I think the two situations. I mean, if a situation where there's two leaders tied going into Final Jeopardy, I think that's the most right situation for a tie to happen, and obviously it requires both of them betting it. Well, it's going to probably be that both of them go double up and get final right. So I think that's the situation that's most likely, either that or just some random wagering happening. Maybe if somebody had what would have been a lock tie situation where somebody has exactly half, that might be a case, but
that's
pretty much, yeah, it's going to require one of those specific situations, I think.
Well, it could have happened tonight, right? Like, because the guy who won didn't bet anything, and I forget his name, Hunter, I think.
Yes.
If he had bet everything, they would have tied. So.
Well, Hunter did bet everything. He just missed Final Jeopardy.
Oh well, sure. Yeah, that's the 50%, right? You got to get the wager right and the answer right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen tonight's episode yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it doesn't air until for another hour and a half. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, whatever.
The whole night.
Whatever. Well, so what was the situation? What were the scores?
It was. Sorry, let me just.
I know Andy knows.
Yeah.
Of course, I know. Doug had 12,004. Hunter had 6,200.
Yeah, exactly. It's an exactly half situation.
Yeah. As Ken mentions, he'd rather bet the dollar than have the risk the tiebreaker.
I think it's better to bet the dollar, because like if you're so for the final clue, if you end up missing, that means that your opponent is also more likely to miss. So I think there's a higher correlation, and the odds go with actually betting to win.
And also another interesting point that another reason why I don't think I would have done the same that Doug did, betting 0. Hunter absolutely destroyed him on the buzzer today, nearly 2-1.
Oh wow!
So that's another
Another
consideration.
Hunter
was owning the buzzer, and I don't think I want to go into a buzz off against a guy who is about 45% on the buzzer in three-way races. So.
Yeah. And Bob seemed much more hesitant, just in his, not just buzzing in, but like, knowing if he had it. It seemed in a few clues too. So, yeah.
So, my next question, moving on from that a bit, just in terms of a general sense of taping during your taping week, was it a kind of a long week at the studio? Because it sounded like, it sounded like Jerry was really struggling in your game.
Yeah, the Thursday game. That's when Jerry was in, right?
Jerry was Friday.
Was it? Oh, good Lord. Yeah, well, a little bit, it didn't. It's hard to say. I was just really tired by the end of that day. By the time we were filming the Friday thing, like my feet were hurting. I was feeling tired enough to feel like a little, just want to get out of here kind of feeling. So I don't think it. But I don't know. Well, it was my only day of full day of taping, so I don't know if it went late or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
Now, how was Jerry in rehearsals?
I think he was okay. Honestly, I don't really remember. I was so stressed out. It was just enough to keep me focused. I didn't really pay attention to much of what other people were doing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because it seemed to me like he may have run into fatigue issues. Often, also the lights sometimes have give people issues. So I think that maybe it would have been It would have been nice to see him play at 100%, sort of. I guess.
Yeah. By I think the second half of the game, he seemed to be more confident with buzzing in and phrasing things correctly, and then he was pretty good. So.
Yeah, he was until I guess at there was the one clue where he just blurted it out without ringing in, and
yeah. But that was in the first half, right? So
I think it was the opening clue of Double Jeopardy, but
okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I also have a sheet of paper. I also have my own notes from the episode.
Oh, that was the Secretary of Defense.
Yes.
The China cabinet. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing people thinking of Jerry's game. People on Twitter being a little rude about Keeley jumping in to take his anthropomorphism from him. And I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's his gameplay. Like, yeah. I would have done that if I could have buzzed in faster, So.
Wait, people were criticizing the rebound?
Yeah.
Who are these people?
They're not serious Jeopardy fans if they're criticizing a rebound.
Oh, you play the
Yeah,
game.
they're not serious. Yeah, they're not. I would say that you have the serious Jeopardy fans, and then you have the randoms who chime in when whatever. And I'm sure you can speak to the great masses on Twitter as well, Kea. But I'm not going to ask you to. But I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So, actually, my next question comes in with to do with Monday's episode. Was there anything weird in that speech category on Monday? Like when you were taping it?
The
Do you remember?
speech category?
Yeah. The point I'm getting at with that, there seemed to be a weird edit just after the commercial break with it had Shannon's score incorrect as he was calling for a category. It had his score, at this point where when he was calling for the $1,000 clue in speech, it had his score going from 24 to 26, and his score was 42 at that point. So I was just. It was confusing, and I was wondering if there was some weird happenings in that category when you taped.
No, I think what I remember is there wasn't anything weird in that episode. It all went very smoothly. So
Okay.
but I don't have a great. I mean, this is a silly thing to say, but I don't have a great memory for things like that. And it was in August, so
fair enough. That's probably me for asking too much minutia. So
that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would have remembered if they had stopped tape. They probably just adjusted at the Daily Double or whenever.
Yeah, that was probably. Yeah, I don't remember them stopping tape for anything. So, yeah.
Okay. So another interesting thing I noticed with regards to your run, Randolph College put out a press release shortly before your episode started airing, mentioning that both you and Lanny Gonzalez, who I believe is airing tomorrow, both went to the same school. Now, did you know her beforehand, or was it before Jeopardy, or was this something you discovered in the green room that you both went to Randolph, or?
It was not beforehand. It was actually when we got off the bus on that morning. We were all of the contestants were sort of standing around in a group waiting for the producers to come pick us up. And so this woman I didn't recognize said to me, "Did you go to Randolph Macon Women's College?" And I was like, "Yes, I did." And she was like, "I'm Lonnie Gonzalez, and I was the year behind you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." When she said her name, I recognized the name, and then she said we lived in the same dorm 1 year. So, and I think we had some mutual friends, but I didn't really. We weren't friends back then, and I didn't really know her well, but I recognized her name. But I also went to a really small college, so it's easy to recognize everyone's name who was there at the same time as you were. So, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's so cool because, I mean, it is such a small women's college that, like, actually seeing someone there like at the same Jeopardy taping is just amazing. So it's really cool.
Now, did the contestant coordinators realize that you both kind of quasi knew each other, or?
They didn't, but we told them in advance. So, and then we had to fill out another form. The do you know anyone who's been on Jeopardy form? They're like, "Oh, well, you need to refill these out now." Okay, more forms. Okay. So.
Okay, well, that's. I guess the extra paperwork's the least of your worries, I guess.
That's true.
My next question: what would you guys say to future contestants about the signaling device? I know, Susan, you had a couple of spots where you were really, really strong on the buzzer, and then you had a few runs where it seemed like no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't get in. So,
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I think practicing at home is really important. Like, it's more than you think is reasonable, I think. I feel like I never really got my speed up, like my watching the lights, knowing when to buzz in. I know other contestants, they sort of have a rhythm that or that count that they do in their head, so they know when to buzz in, and that seems to work for them. But I just always sort of just watched the lights obsessively. And then as soon as I saw them, I'd buzz in. But I don't know if that's helpful to anyone else or not. But I don't know. What about you, Kaya?
So when I was preparing, I played a lot of archive games and had someone read the entire, like all of the clues and press basically turn a lamp on so that I would know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would be able to basically time the end of the reading and sort of have a particular sort of, I don't know, condition myself to have it associated with the lights. So I would sort of anticipate the lights rather than actually wait for the light and then press the buzzer, because it was clear when I was coming in too early. So yeah, and so that's how I practiced. And so when I got there, it was kind of second nature by that point.
And for those of you who don't remember, Kaya did quite well on the buzzer. So.
Yeah, I also had, I sort of found a particular grip on the buzzer that no one else did, simply because it was more comfortable for me. So,
what was your grip?
So basically my preference would have been to use two hands, but apparently there's a rule that says you can't. So what I did, you're allowed to anchor it with one hand, but you have to be able to hold it and press it. So what I did was sort of hold it like this, but use this as an anchor, and so it looks like I'm using two hands like this. And instead of using my finger to actually press the button like this, I would basically just squeeze my elbows together.
Oh,
seemed to work for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found the buzzer to also be heavier than I was expecting. So I was sort of thinking I could just hold it in one hand, but it was too heavy for me to comfortably hold it in one hand for too long without the buzzing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Because I had been practicing with just like actually the Jeopardy pen that they give you. Mm-hmm. And it's so much lighter than the actual buzzer that when I was doing the practice round, I was like, oh, I got to like do two hands. This is way too heavy. So.
Sorry, adjusting.
Interesting. I've never. That's the first I've heard of somebody telling me that they thought the buzzer was was heavier than expected. So that's good to know, and good for listeners, viewers to know. Ken asked, "Have either of you used Classroom Jeopardy?"
No, I don't know what that is.
Classroom Jeopardy, they give it to all the teachers who play in the teachers tournament. Also, I mean, I believe they sell it as well for education, for teachers to, play Jeopardy in their classrooms.
Oh.
I've never played actual Classroom Jeopardy because, I don't know. So all of the students that I have worked with as a volunteer, it's for Quiz Bowl, and so they already have buzzers. So I suppose you can sort of use them in order to do Classroom Jeopardy, like non-unofficial, like not sponsored Classroom Jeopardy, but.
No, I haven't. I remember in school I had some teachers who would make up their own Jeopardies and like sheets of paper on a blackboard or something like that. But no, nothing official and fancy like that.
Okay. Well, Ken has said that he hosts a game with in his advanced legal research class with it. Apparently, law students love it.
Oh, cool.
It gives you a rough feel for the signaling device, and your sister has, apparently, Susan. Your sister Elizabeth is tuning in, and apparently she has.
That's funny.
I told her I was going to be on this, and I thought maybe she'd be on the DL, but that's not her style. So she's an instructional librarian. So that explains why she's used it, I think.
Okay. So, my next question, obviously, I would say this is probably the prototypical hashtag Jeopardy live panel question, the longest standing one for sure. It's the one that Ben Ingram would always ask when he was on the panel, and I've just turned it into a standing question. But obviously, you were there in between the taping of the Wednesday and Thursday episodes, which means you got to eat lunch at the Sony commissary.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I always ask is, what did you have for lunch?
Well, that's exciting. I actually had a turkey sandwich, which the producers told me was a bad idea because it would make me sleepy. And the funny thing is that I remember watching my Thursday game last week and being all like, you know what, I do look sleepy. I did remember feeling a bit sleepy. I mean, it was a good sandwich, but
it was a good sandwich, but was it worth it? Well, you did win the game, so
I did win. So yeah, yeah, that was a nice commissary. I was impressed. It's a nice, like, lots of options, and they all look good and fresh and stuff. So
it seems like the salad is popular, but from my
I wish I should have gotten the salad bar. I didn't even look at it. I was so, like, just wrapped up in the whole experience that I didn't even think. And sorry about that. I didn't even. I didn't even think to look in the salad bar. So yeah, but Maggie bought us candy bars, which was sweet.
Maggie bought candy bars and not Karina? It's usually Karina who buys the candy bars.
Then it was probably Karina. I'm sorry.
I'm like, Maggie bought the candy bars? I'm like, that's unusual for Maggie. That's not what Maggie usually does. But from my experience of hearing stories on panel, it's definitely, it's usually Karina who buys the candy bars and pulls them out and says, "Here, take some," and nobody ever takes some.
Yes, that happened with us too. For me, I don't really eat chocolate or coconut, and she bought almond joys, and I was like, well, I can't eat those. So, but it was very sweet. It was a very sweet gesture. So.
Okay. That's a fun comment from Jay Johnson, who's going to be on November 25th, the day of. I think it's Thanksgiving Day. Or is it the 24th? What's the calendar for November again? I know Election Day is the 8th. Jay is the 24th. Okay.
24th, yeah.
24th. That's Thanksgiving. Well, he says law students love anything that doesn't involve briefing cases, and they also love beer. From my general knowledge of law students, I think I have to agree with him there. Now, did you have any viewing parties?
I had one the first night on Wednesday, and it was some of the members of my trivia team here in Annapolis, so that was fun. My pub trivia team, and they came over and watched it with me, so that was cool. Yeah.
So just the one viewing party then?
Yes, though it on Friday I had a slightly weird viewing party because some friends of mine who live in Boston, actually they're the friends that I know Amelia through. So there you go, it's all connected. They're just going to be preempted by football, so they asked me if we could like video chat and I could turn my computer to the TV so they could watch it. So we did that, and so I was sort of live chatting with them while we were watching it through my laptop.
Huh.
So
interesting. For the record, if you're in the Boston area on Fridays, they've actually been airing it at 9:30 in the morning on WBZ. Something to keep in mind. They pushed it up. I think It's better than what they used to do, which was like 2:30 in the morning, because they seem to think that their viewership wants to see Patriots All Access between 7 and 8 on Friday nights.
Yeah, well, Boston's pretty crazy. I used to live in Boston, so they're pretty crazy for their Patriots. Or all their sports teams. I don't know.
All their sports teams, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, just wait until they make a game show that's basically professional quizzing with a team in every city. I'm pretty sure Boston would like be the ones that would go the craziest.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's true.
yeah. People are very serious about trivia in Boston.
People are very serious about trivia in a lot of places.
That's true.
But yeah, Boston works. When you went out to Culver City to tape, now did you go? Was it 2 consecutive days, or did they have to fly you back out?
It was 2 consecutive days.
Okay. So that makes it. I mean, I guess it probably makes it easier than having to fly back.
Oh yeah.
Go out to Annapolis and then, back out to LA. And so, did you do anything else while you were out in Culver City to tape?
I did. I saw the La Brea Tar Pits for the first time.
Nice.
I'd been to LA a few times before, but well, it's funny because a friend of mine from college lives in LA, and so she went to all the tapings with me. And after my Wednesday taping, and I was free, and I was like, let's go to the Los Angeles County Museum of Art because I've always wanted to go to it. And we get there, and it's closed on Wednesdays. So then we're like, what do we do? And we're like, well, and then she was like, well, the tar pits are like down the block. So I was like, okay, let's go to the tar pits. And they were so cool. And they smell so weird. I was like, it smells like a tar, like a street on a hot day. And it's like, well, that's because it's asphalt, right? So that was really cool. And then also, my friend who lives out there is Korean American, and so she always makes a point whenever I visit her to take me out to really good Korean food. So this time we got cold noodles, which I'd never had before, and they were amazing. So
nice.
Yeah, it was a really good trip. Oh, and I went to see a comedy show that Kumail Nanjiani and Jonah Ray host at this comic book store on Sunset Boulevard, I think. So that was really cool. Yeah, it was one of those things. Like I'm kind of a fan of stand-up comedy, but where I live, it's not really super easy to get to it. And so I'd heard of this show, and I love these guys as comedians, and I was like, well, one day if I ever get back to Los Angeles, I'll go to this show. And then when I found out I got to Jeopardy, my second thought was, I am going to that show. And I did, and it was amazing. Yeah. So.
Nice. And I think you're not the first person to point out on this panel that the museum is closed on Wednesdays, because I suspect you're not the first person to have been disappointed by that.
I know they should put that in the Jeopardy fact or something.
My next question actually comes in from Jay. Did you give up the quote-unquote returning champ secret at the DoubleTree to the second day group before catching the van to the studio, or did you wait until you were asked to point out, that you were the returning champion?
No, I waited until the green room. But actually, it was funny because the second day there were 2 people from my first day, Shannon and Debbie, who still hadn't played yet. So that morning, I just sort of hung out with them and talked to them. And I didn't really talk to the other contestants until we were in the green room.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and they were both really cool people. So, I'd love to hang out with them some more.
Yeah, it certainly sounded. They certainly seemed like very interesting people watching them on the show this week.
Yeah.
Speaking of Shannon and Debbie, there was an interesting situation for those who may be more casual fans at the end of yesterday's program in terms of Final Jeopardy. One of the things that the more casual fans were asking about is why Debbie's response of "The Silent Spring" was accepted by the judges. Now, both of you being former contestants, can speak to the fact that obviously you're briefed as to the rules before you go on the show and tape. And this is one of the situations that they actually brief you about, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's a very reasonable rule too. They say as long as you're close and it's not, and it's not this confusing in any way, because you've missed an article or not, then you can get it.
Right.
So I mean, the way I've always described it to other as a fan and somebody who hasn't been on the show yet, if it's there, if it's there, you can drop it. If it's not there, you can add it, as long as there isn't another title with the same name to confuse it with. For example, Invisible Man versus The Invisible Man, you have to get it correct.
Right. As long as there's nothing confusing that you actually have to distinguish between two different possibilities. Yeah, you can add leading articles. Now, articles that are in the middle of a title, those have to be right.
Yes. For example, in the Ultimate Tournament of Champions, All Quiet on Western Front was ruled unacceptable. Sarah Dubnik, in the recent college tournament in her quarterfinal, said on the origin of the species, which was also ruled unacceptable because it's on the origin of species.
Right.
So articles in the middle cannot be added or dropped, but leading articles can be added or dropped. So that's so obviously that would be why The Silent Spring was accepted by the judges without really any mention from Alex as to what was on her screen. There was a bit of an audio cut actually that I noticed, but it sounded like he may have had to retape. They may have had to retape some audio at that point, but that's just something I noticed in my own, as I was watching, sort of thing. My next question: how different is it watching Jeopardy now that you've been on?
I think I feel in some ways much more sympathy for the contestants. Like before I was on, if they would miss something that I felt was obvious, I'd be the first one shouting at the screen or something like that. But now I'm like, oh, I know how hard that was. Like just standing up there is really hard. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Same question for me?
Yeah, same question for you, Kaya.
Oh, sure. So after I taped, I had to take a break just because, my loss was so devastating. But yeah, I had spent so much time like preparing and like watching so many like episodes and going through the archive that I just needed a total break from Jeopardy for several months. But yeah, like going back into it, it's kind of hard because you have to sort of ease back into it. Yeah, but yeah. Eventually it got to the point where it's just sort of watching the show again.
Yeah. I'm still in the situation where it's still people I know, from my contestant pool. So I'm like, oh, it's Debbie. She was so nice. I'm so excited to see how she does. And I watched Tuesday's game in studio after I lost, but then I left. So I haven't seen Wednesday's or today's games before. So that was exciting. Yeah.
That's good to know. Your comment on having more sympathy for the contestants is common. I will say that it's a common thing. Being like I've been up there. I know what it feels like. I suspect you might have some more sympathy for contestant interviews as well.
Yes. Very true. Yeah.
So if you want to maybe touch for a couple of minutes on the attention that that's received and your thoughts on that.
Oh man, the attention was crazy. After I taped that episode, we went so quickly into doing two more and then one more the next day, and I had legitimately pretty much forgotten that he had said that, because my other contestant interviews actually went really well, I thought, and they were pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was watching it on Wednesday, my first episode, and occasionally checking Twitter, and suddenly it's like blowing up what I said, and everyone had an opinion about how I was feeling in that moment, and yeah, that was very strange, very strange. Yeah, and I'm not really, like, I don't really want fame, like I wanted to do Jeopardy, and I thought I'd get some, like, this kind of attention, like other Jeopardy fans' attention or my friends and family attention, and have, I literally had TMZ call me on, like, Thursday morning, like I was at work.
That's amazing.
And they called my cell phone, and I was like, what? How did you get this number? Yeah, so that was really weird. Really weird. So, and then, like, it was also all of these nerdcore rappers who I have liked for years are all, like, commenting on Twitter about Susan Cole is our hero, and I'm like, you're my hero, So that was really strange too.
Yeah.
It also kind of you read about other people's social media viral experiences, and it's really unsettling to have it happen to you, I find. Especially sort of so many people out there interpreting how I felt about something. And I'm like, I'm not talking about how I felt about it. So, yeah. Yeah, it was strange. Very strange.
Now, I think another thing that got a minor amount of attention was the sweater you wore on Friday's show, with a wheel on it. So that was is there a story behind that and why you chose that for Jeopardy, or?
Well, I like that sweater. It's one of my favorites. And I thought it would go well on TV because the navy and the red pop well, Mm-hmm. And actually, it's funny, that sweater. It's a type of knitting called intarsia, where the pattern is knit into the whole sweater. And I've always thought that was really cool, so I wanted an intarsia sweater. So then I bought that one, and then I wore it on Jeopardy. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I was a fan.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite sweaters, so it's amazing to hear. I mean, even after I taped, I had people coming up to me saying, "We really liked your sweater," and I was like, "Okay, thanks." My favorite was, I saw someone on Twitter, like, asking, like, in the process of the game, asking if it was the Wheel of Dharma, and I was like, "Oh my god, I wish it was. That would be cool." Like, no, it's just a J. Crew, like, ship's wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but the coincidence that, like, my final Jeopardy question is, like, what is Ahab, was amazing.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. Ken actually just pointed that out on the YouTube chat. He thought it was a very cool coincidence there, and also that he thinks you were appropriately assertive and respectful.
Oh. Okay. Thank you.
And apparently, unlike a certain necklace, the sweater won't make noise that's easily picked up by the microphone. Oh. I can't quite remember which necklace that was that would pick up things. That Matt Carberry is referring to that. I'm sure he'll elucidate for me. But It's interesting. I will say, most of the comments are not coming on the hashtag. Actually, there's very little on the hashtag. Just one from Jay being, does he pick between Thursday Night Football, Rocky Horror, and Jeopardy Live Panel? And he's obviously chosen Jeopardy Live Panel. Life is
Well, I
full
mean,
of
he
tough
could
decisions.
do
This
at
isn't
least
one.
2 of the. He could do the Jeopardy live panel and one of the other ones, right?
He
I
could.
mean, I don't know his life, but you know.
Well, I've got the baseball game, the Cubs Dodgers game, on mute behind my camera. So Matt did say, Matt Carberry said Megan Mills was the person who's the contestant whose necklace picked up picked up extraneous sounds.
Mm.
And obviously, Ken Hirsch is a monotasker. Multitasking is a myth, he says. So at this point, do you guys have any random questions for anyone else that's on the panel right now?
I don't think
Not that I
so.
can think of. Not at the moment.
Oh, I just thought of one. Do you have any plans for any big ticket items planned for the winnings?
A lot of vague things. Nothing super specific. I mean, nothing that I've like picked out and earmarked yet. But I do drive a 10-year-old used car, so I think I might be getting a new car in the future sometime soon. You know, a mid-priced model. Some of my coworkers were like, "Oh, you're gonna buy like a really expensive car?" And I'm like, "No."
It's funny. Jeopardy contestants are usually, conservative with their automobile choices as a rule. So that doesn't surprise me to hear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did you tell the contestant coordinators you were going to use the money for?
Oh, okay. So it's funny because it's also car related. It's like if you win $1 million, because I love driving fast. Like I am never as happy as when I'm driving fast. I mean, of course I never speed, but never. And I was like, I would buy like a really expensive sports car, and I want to get into like Formula. Wait, what's the kind of racing you do on roads, not on a track? Is that Formula One?
Well, no, I would say rally driving.
Rally car?
I don't know. But like what they do at like Monaco and whatever.
That is Formula One, but
yes, that's Formula One.
Yeah, if I had like a stupid amount of money, I'd take up like sports car driving, race car driving. Yeah. Terribly unsafe, but that could fulfill all my need for speed.
You can always start at a karting circuit, work your way up.
Yep.
What was yours, Kea?
What was mine at the audition? I said I would take a trip to Japan and go to a sumo tournament. That's what I said.
That'd be so cool.
That would be so fun. Go on the last day, watch the Yokozuna face off. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
At my last audition, I said I wanted to take a trip to Thailand to play in the King's Cup Scrabble tournament. They have tens. They play in a really loud shopping mall, and you have 10. Not only do they have the international divisions, they have a whole bunch of Thai domestic divisions, as well as a whole bunch of school children that play, and so you have like thousands of people all playing Scrabble in a shopping mall, as nice. People are shopping, and I've been told the atmosphere is incredible, and would be something I'd like to do at some point.
That sounds really cool too.
So yeah,
they should do bridge tournaments like that. That would be fun. Just set up a bunch of tables in like a shopping mall and have bridge. I'd go for that.
That's an interesting thought. I think that people might go for that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions at this point? I've actually managed to go through both sides of my index card.
Oh.
I didn't come up with anything. I don't know. Is there like one particular clue or one particular answer you were super proud of or super ashamed of, or anything that comes to mind?
Well, I really like the word tintinnabulation, so I'm really pleased that I got that word.
That was a good get. Good get.
Yeah. Also, Limpet, because as a kid, I really liked The Incredible Mr. Limpet. Like, I guess it was rerun on the Disney Channel or something like that. So as soon as I saw that clue, I was like, it's Limpet! It's Limpet! The one I'm really ashamed about is actually from that speech category in my last game. When that picture came up of Edward VIII, and I was buzzing in, and I was thinking, as I was buzzing in, I was thinking, Susan, why are you buzzing in? You never remember what this dude's number is.
Aww.
Like, I always get mixed up. I always think he's Edward VII. I'm not good on 20th century English monarchs.
Yeah.
And so it was annoying because it was like as soon as I buzzed in, I was like, Edward VII. And Alex was like, no, Edward VIII. And I was like, of course it is. Of course it is.
Yep. 8 Edwards. I know he's the last one.
See? Oh, I wish. Yeah, now I'll never forget it's Edward VIII. So that's helpful.
Well, speaking of regnal numbers, there was a clue at some point about Pope Benedict. And I think that it was on a Daily Double, I think, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And they accepted it without the regnal number.
Right.
Yeah. Which surprised me simply because I remember.
I feel it happened to Carrie in the Tournament of Champions.
At the Tournament of Champions.
I don't think she's tuning in tonight, but I remember asking her about that at one point, and I think she said that had she said it just Benedict without the number, they would have given it to her. But I'm not 100% sure. And I'm kind of loath to ask her because I know it's a Daily Double she missed, and I don't want to open that wound.
I remember because I was at that taping, and so like I remember everyone in the audience was just yeah. There's a sigh from the audience. It was rough.
Yeah. Think about all the other 15 Benedicts. You know, how do they feel about this?
Exactly.
And of course, in terms of regnal numbers, there's the big King James controversy from the college tournament. But I don't know.
No, I remember it was about the Bible, and basically it was basically somebody put just King James when
Nikki Peters just put King James.
Yeah, Nikki put just King James, and they were saying that James the First should have been the correct response. But I don't know. Like partially, I'm thinking, well, the Bible is usually called the King James Bible, so that might have had something to do with it. Also, like you can always, I don't know if this is a rule, but I mean, you can always just assume that if you don't have a regnal number, it's the first, but I don't know if that's a rule.
And we have a bit of a joke from Jay. Benedict the Cumberbatch, of course.
Is that my brother-in-law, Jay? That's my question.
Jay John. No, the Jay I think is Jay Johnson, he's airing Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? If you're watching, probably. Yeah, he says I don't think so. If you have any questions, get them in very quickly, because I should say that our next. There was also in the college tournament. There was a Metamorphosis / The Metamorphosis. I think that's the leading article thing again. There's no issue there. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened in that college tournament, including the massive tie for that last wild card spot. But,
was it? I remember something about Metamorphosis versus Metamorphoses. Was that one of the controversies?
Possibly. I can't quite. I'd have to. Let me see if I can quickly bring up.
Kafka Ovid. I
But
think
the
that
thing,
might have
the
been it.
other, but the other thing is, I mean, the original title of that work isn't English either. So,
Exactly right.
so there's a lot. I mean, in that sort of a in that sort of a deal, there's a lot. You get a little bit more wiggle room
Yeah,
because
more
obviously it's
leeway.
coming. Yeah, because the original title isn't English. I think it would have been. Yeah, no. It was according to J Archive. The three answers were given were the metamorphosis, metamorphosis, and the metamorphosis. So I
Was
think
it
that
was it about the Kafka or about Ovid?
it was about Kafka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The clue was about Kafka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Anything else? If you want to, I guess speak now or forever hold your peace on the YouTube chat. Otherwise, we may have to wait until the next episode. For those, okay, so for all of you who tuned in to this live roundtable, thank you very much for tuning in to both Susan and Kea. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. See you soon.
Congratulations on your 3 wins, Susan.
Thank you very much.
I guess what would
Congrats.
you say? What would you say your chances are of that holding up for the Tournament of Champions?
Oh, I don't think I mean, at the last I checked, I was like 13th, I think, in rankings. So I don't think very likely. I mean, how many people do they take for the tournament?
15.
15. Yeah,
15.
I don't think. I mean, and is it through this season or is it just to the end of I think it's through this season, right?
It's irregular. I'm guessing it's going to be a season and a half.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the TOC scheduled for the fall, so probably
No, I
the
don't think so.
May sweeps.
It could be either February or May at this point. Last Seth reported he had not heard anything, and I'm pretty sure he is one of the first people they would tell when it is.
Yeah.
But last Seth reported when he was on Jeopardy live panel, I believe he said he did not know.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not holding my breath. I think
Okay.
there'll probably be a few more people who get more money or more days than me. So.
Okay.
But I mean, I'll go if they want me to.
I'm pretty sure anyone would go if they want. There are a lot of people who, oh, Jeopardy wants me to come on. Drop everything and I'll fly out to Culver City, certainly. So. So yeah, for everyone here at hashtag Jeopardy Live panel, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking part. On the next episode, not this coming weekend, but sometime close to either Halloween or November 1st should be our taping for that. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Let me just quickly get the credits card up. Google has changed its share screen a little bit to make it a little bit harder to share your screen, but there we go. There are the hashtag Jeopardy Live panel credits. Thank you very much for taking part and tuning in, and I'll see you next time here on hashtag Jeopardy Live panel. Have a great night.